thank you so much, Mr. Chibwe. I really appreciate your invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed. It's been a rough week, I should say. It's quite hot. Everything is okay. I hope everything is going for you.
No, everything is going on fine. Not knowing about you.
Everything is okay at Zamcom Radio. And of course, this particular week we have an interesting topic of discussion. And of course, our topic of discussion today is on how education can help us run a business, the impact that education has on the running of a business in our country, Zambia. And of course, to stay tuned, just like I said, and of course, we can keep the number so that later on when we open the phone lines, we keep talking. That is 0978 640018. And of course, getting to our guest, Mr. Mudenda. Before we really get into this topic, I'll first try to open up and then we can get connected with the people. I'll not first try to understand. Being where you are today, and of course, later on you're going to tell exactly who you are and where you come from. Being where you are today, growing up as a child, what is it that you really wanted to become when you grew up?
Actually, coming from a background which is very humble, one of the things that inspired me in the society where I'm coming from was actually to be a businessman, to create an impact in the society where I was born from, where I was raised, as well as an impact in the lives of others. So it was to become a businessman. Growing up in a home where my parent has been doing business up to now, she is a businessman.
Okay, that's very, very interesting today. Just one more thing, very interesting. So, like remember the days in school. What were you doing in school? What did people know you for? What is it that one person can remember you for whenever they are sitting back?
Oh, okay. Quite interesting. Quite interesting talking about that. Okay, so one thing that I was best known for was for my outstanding smartness. I'm one person who used to be smart since back then in my primary education, even in my secondary education. I just kept up the smartness, and everyone knew me for that.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, I think so. I was looking at the way you're looking today. Very, very organized despite the weather that we're having today.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And of course, Mr. Mudenda, very interesting guest that we have today is an entrepreneur. I would just love to find out more about you, Mr. Mudenda. Can you please just tell us a little bit of your background, where you're coming from, the hometown, and then just a little in your education so that at least we know a bit.
Oh, okay. Of course, Muzingwani Mudenda is a Zambian that comes from the rural part of this nation, which is Shiwinji district to be specific, and the community where I come from is Nampundu. That is located 40 to 45 km away from the CBD, and I did my primary education just right there at Nampundu Primary School, and I later advanced to my secondary education just within the same community at Nampundu Secondary School. And I was privileged actually to have some tertiary education that was in Kabwe, where I did my Bachelor's of Arts with Education. I'm a teacher by profession. Sure. And yeah, so I think basically that's who I am, and I'm Tonga by tribe. Oh, yeah.
Yes, you know, we all this radio station, of course, is located at the school. Most of these listeners are school-going people, and of course, right now they are locked home, just like everyone else at home, driving and of course, home. There are a lot of people who want to be in school, and there are people who are in school right now. They are not having it. They are not having it easy in school. How did it go for you in school? Did you have it an easy way, or how was it? How was life in school?
Oh well, Mr. Chiwe, it's never easy when you are actually doing your tertiary education. I think the challenges might be similar in one or the other. Because when you get there, it's adult life, and you have to pave your way out on your own. Okay, you learn about being independent. How do you manage yourself? Okay, outside your home where you grew up from. So everything there takes a different twist because you have to begin now managing yourself. Okay, your social life, your academic life. So there are issues of planning that get in, there is also developing some financial skills with the little, resources that you're given. You have to plan well so that they see you at the end, of the semester or rather a term. So a lot of things, become, at the center that you need to manage. So it's never, an easy way.
And in school, were you like a straight A person? Like, there are those people just focus on getting grades, not focusing on any other thing, or maybe trying to hustle it out, but just focus on education. Were you that kind of student, or what kind of student were you really in school?
I'm not really focusing just on education. So primarily for me, I actually took, an approach where I needed to understand, apart from just acquiring an education, are there any other extracurricular, or any other activities that I can engage myself in? And you realize that as I was doing my education back then, I also discovered that I can actually begin a venture within the confines of our university, and I began my business just back then. So I took both, I would say, paths, the academic pathway and also the entrepreneurial pathway or the vocational one.
And so in this case, would you say that of course you had some influence from like the parents having an influence on you, looking at them doing business or something of that sort? So like that was like you as a child observing whatever was going on and money being made. Of course, you didn't have that understanding really of how everything else was going, but you saw that there's some business that was going on in the background. So at what point did it really click in you that I really need to start a business? So you just recently mentioned that in your earlier submission, you mentioned that it's that you started there in school, like tertiary education. At what point did that click? What were the reasons? Was it because Garama Zabuta, or maybe how did it click?
Oh, actually, so growing up from a home where business was being conducted, and at some point I was actually being privileged to manage the errands on behalf of my parents. Okay, that was the business that they were actually doing. So now, after I went for my tertiary education, I came to realize that school wasn't just, easy for me. And I sat down and planned for it to say, what are some of the alternatives, that I can engage myself in, that I can also, realize something to help myself here in school. So it was at that point when I was in school, those are some of the academic challenges that are coupled with finances. For example, I would say, when I was working on my scripts, assignments, and the like, they needed money, so they needed, some financial, support. So it is as a result of that that I thought of it to say, is there any venture that I can do that can help me realize an income that can, help me do my school properly and effectively? So it is at that point that I realized I needed to do a venture.
And assuming on behalf of security in school, there are a lot of activities that students are involved in, like there are weekends where you need to go and chill out. There are these things that some fun things that young people are involved in. So like as in for you who was spending a bit of your time on of course doing some of your businesses and most of the time on academics, that simply means that at some point the life that time and life that was supposed to be spent on those activities like having fun and relations was happening. How did you deal with your peers, those people who are closer to you? How did you deal with it? Because at some point I'm sure one or two people might have come and then just try to tell it to your face that there's some time that you're wasting. How did you deal with that?
Actually, like I earlier mentioned, to say you learn life of being, independent, paving your way out, deciding how your future is going to be begins from there. So looking at what my friends were engaging in and looking at what I was doing, of course, it is a resolve that I made on my own to say I'm not going, to be part of them or rather engage in all those vices, but rather I would have to engage into something meaningful that will see me or help me out the moment I leave, the confines of the university. And just that resolve is what kept me on track, and I did my business just right there in school.
Okay, okay. And it's something that I've just, there's a time that I sat down with my colleagues and we were debating on the issue of choosing friends and the type of people that you're following. What kind of a person are you with regards to friends? Are you the person who chooses friends based on like who has having something in common. Let's say you want to have a business, or maybe for you it's okay, you can have friends who are not serious, or your peers, people close to you. Do you believe there's no influence that your friends have to do with regards to your growth or something like that?
Well, that's a very interesting question. So with me, I believe that there lies a lot of power in association. So I'm very, skeptical and careful on how I choose who my friends are. So it's not something that I actually even find easy, because for me, I look at the impact someone is going to bring in my life. Okay, the impact that I'm going to give to them. Okay, so how far you go in this life is actually determined with the level of association that you keep. Okay, the things that you're going to attend, the things that you're going to achieve is directly, related with the kind of association that you keep. So for me, I'm very careful with the kind of friends that I keep. For someone to be a friend, I take a careful analysis. I should have that person should have values, certain principles that are aligning with the things that I believe in. For example, for me, discipline is key. Okay, in doing certain things, I'm one person that keeps time. Okay, I'm one person that is consistent with the things I do. So all those things. So it's about the person who is aligning with the things that I want and the things that I do. Like they say, birds of the same feathers flock together. So it's basically that. I actually make harsh statements sometimes. I usually tell my friends, I say, if we cannot help each other grow, it's better we help each other grow. So it's about an impact in the lives of others.
That's very interesting, and I'm sure most of the things that young people find difficult. I am a young person as well, so that is something that I really understand. And one of the things that we find very difficult is how to show the door to someone. Like how do you even, where do you even start from? That is something very difficult. So I know and I understand that. I'm a firm believer that for me, I'll just at first, I'll look at the kind of person I'm dealing with, and if they don't have the qualities that I'm looking for, I'll let them go before we become friends. But when I realize there are situations whereby you don't even remember how you became friends with someone, but you just find yourself in the friendship. How do you deal with that? How do you show them the door that, okay, this is the door. There's nothing I'm learning from this person. He is the door so that I can move. How do you do? I know we're talking about business, but that is what influences the decisions that we make in our businesses. How do you show the door to someone?
Exact. So talking about that, it's like I earlier mentioned. So it's about the value that they're bringing on the table. Okay, what are you learning from them? So the moment you realize that this person brings, probably no growth on the table that can help you or impact you in any way positive. So what you're supposed to do, I think, you just have to avoid them and don't give them, your attention and the time. Okay, so that is, I think, the mature way of signing out, or rather giving them a signal that you're no longer interested in the friendship, because at the end, time wasted is never recovered. Yeah. So I think that's one of the mature way. You just be strictly on your time and don't give them the attention. Sure.
Yeah, that's in the end. It's so actually that matters. It's who is living your life. So you really want the best out for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now you were in school. You started business. At least here and there you are receiving some funds. Life in school. I understand first of all that it's not easy, but there are some opportunities whereby they send some money for you for groceries and stuff like that. If you balance out quite well, you can run a business.
Exactly.
To complete your tertiary education, of course, that's like the first level you complete. You go back in society. How now was life then? Because that's like reality check. You are in society, and what is expected of you? They expect that they can now start seeing, this is Muzingwani, he's out of school. Let him now start working. How was it? How did you deal with the expectations that family members have, and of course society? Society, can be judgmental. They are expecting high things. They expect to see you having money and helping out. How did you deal with that?
Exactly. I think now that marks the actual discourse of why we are having this topic. Okay, that's now about education. You have attained your education and you've gone into society, and expectations are high to say what kind of a being has this person has been transformed to. Okay, and everyone is level-headed, level high, with expectations, wanting to see what kind of a being have you turned into or transformed into. So now I think allow me to talk about education itself. Yeah, so I think being a teacher, I should also mention to say it's interesting, and I really appreciate this time that I've been given, because it has taken me back from the time I was doing my study and looking at all those things, issues to do with the education itself as a concept, what impact it has on an individual and as well as society. So as we dive into a person who you become into society after school, allow me to talk about education itself. So education is actually a key concept in the field of sociology, and you'll find that a lot of scholars, sociologists rather, they have lamented about the term education. You can talk of people like Emile Durkheim, Max Weber, Karl Marx. Everyone has had their comment about what education is. But for the purposes of our discourse, allow me to quote one scholar that talks about or defines education actually. This is Emile Durkheim, who defines education in his own unique way. He says education is a means of socializing individuals into the norms, values, and skills needed to function into society. Okay? So actually, Emile Durkheim, this is a scholar who is behind the functionalist theory. So what he believes in is solidarity in society, people working together for the common good, people who share the same beliefs and values. Okay, he believed in preparing individuals for their social roles in society, such as preparing them for the division of labor in society. So basically, that was his definition of education. But after learning more about it, allow me to define it in this way. Education is actually a gateway to life. Okay, it's actually a gateway to which individuals get to apply themselves to life effectively. Okay, it opens your mind, okay, that you can live a meaningful life after you've earned the education. It now begins to create an impact to you. So basically that's education. So coming to the question that you've asked, you're now into society and everyone is highly expecting of you. What kind of a product have you become? Okay, so now it was very tricky because you have to begin from where you ended in school with the business that I was doing and everything that you are doing. Now you're into society. You've left your clientele. All the clients that you have in school have been left in school. So now you're now a new person in society. Where do you begin from? I should indicate that it's rough and it's not friendly. So personally, I had to take the role of assisting my parents with their business. So just there, and everyone could look down upon me to say, this is a graduate. How come he's, a salesperson in a shop? But I had to take that low profile while I was reflecting on how, I can raise myself in society. So it was during, when I was a salesperson that I began, to reflect and to think of the things that I could do. And just to mention, in school, I used to do the printing business. That is part of stationery. So while I was doing this, the sales at my parents' shop, I began that same business and I built the clientele. So within no time, I was able to raise a good sum of money that helped me to start, my own shop. Okay, I raised a good sum that I was able to build my own shop within Shibuyunji. Okay, and people thought it was a joke, but that's how I began. Okay, from a salesperson assisting my parents, and then I was doing my business just in their shop. And then when I began, putting up my own shop, I went and got a loan from one of the financial institutions. What I presented was the business that I was doing and the few items that I had, the machines for printing as my collateral. And then I was assisted with, a meaningful amount that enabled me to start my business. So that's how I began my business. Within no time, I was able to realize, some good profits. And I began running it. I was consistent, I kept pushing in, putting in the effort, and then it reached at a level where I needed to employ someone to assist me to run my business. And this is why it is. Okay. So it is at that level that I had to put myself together and figure it out. How best, can I build myself now that I'm into society? It's never easy, but that's how I had to make my way out. Okay, so allow me to mention that business is about risk taking. Okay, apart from risk taking, you need to be a vision carrier. Okay, you as the owner of the business, you should have a vision where you want to take your business. Okay, those people that you are going to engage in, those people that you are going to employ in, those are coming to assist to run the business, even though they become, by allowing them to be part of that business. So you explain the vision to those people that are coming to assist. So when you explain to those people, one of the major tasks that you have is how you navigate from that point where you are to the bigger vision that you want to become as a business. So it calls a lot of effort of, studying, analyzing, engaging all the technological advancement that currently, at play during that time. Okay, so that they help you to navigate. I'll give you an example. One of the platforms at which we are able to operate with my guys is actually via the CCTV surveillance, that system. We've installed that system, and we are able to communicate with my team even when I'm away. Okay, so that keeps us coordinated as well as functioning even when I'm not present there. Okay, so there is also embracing of new technologies, systems that should help you run. Okay, there are issues like an accounting system where you're able to take into interest the inventory that you have, the profits that you are making. So all that is embraced together with the team that you're running with. But what is more important is to guide the people that you're working with. So you as a vision carrier, you are the one who is supposed to lead the people that you're moving with, and that's growth. Okay, on its own. And also on the other side, you have a vision that is actually you have a business that is standing on your people. So you have two things, a business and leading growth. So when you embrace the two, I think they keep you running without falling back. Of course, challenges are there, but what is more important is learning from them and finding solutions, or rather, ways of mitigating them.
That's very interesting. Because earlier on you mentioned how, of course, I'm still on the issue of capital because it's so big.
Exactly.
There's no business that can kickstart without any capital. Exactly. Earlier on Zamcom Radio, there's a program that we have called CE, for instance. CEC was in the house. They were talking about everything, loans and everything. There are these misconceptions on how to get loans and why people are not getting loans. People giving all sorts of excuses. CEC is just among many financial institutions that can assist people in acquiring, of course, loans to start businesses, of course, guys. So now, for you to do what you did, it means there is some research which you conducted. Business needs for you to do research. So, how is the importance of research there in establishing a business that will work out in that particular area? What is
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So, talking about research, I think that is a conducive, platform, or I should say, it's the beginning of the enabling environment to birth an idea. What you need is research to find out what is lacking in this area, what is lacking in this community. Okay, that serves as a starting point of any business that you're about to venture in. So when you do a research, you have the findings that are going to tell you to say, in this locality, in this area, in this community, what the people are lacking is ABCD. So it's from there that you generate your ideas. What solution can I bring to the challenges that the people are facing in this community? Okay. So basically, research brings to you the facts that are prevailing on the ground, and it is out of those findings that you check the viability of an idea, okay, being birthed, or rather, implementing it in that area.
And of course, talking about like people, like we have people decide looking for our businesses. I think what I'm about to ask is something that many people are going through, especially here in Lusaka. Of course, that is visualized, but it's very, very common in Lusaka. When a person wants to get hired, I believe you are going through this, phase of looking for employment. It's very difficult for a person to be employed because they are looking for certain skills with you. So now, people who have small businesses or startups or businesses that don't have like a very big turnover. What happens is that we don't hire specialists or people who are trained in that field.
Exactly.
We get people without any form of training, but we just see them as people who can manage that business.
Exactly.
So now you go ahead on that journey of training. When you train a person, they become like your best performing employee. That is something that I've gone through myself. They become the very best performing employee. As soon as they get to that level where business is running very smoothly, a bigger corporation or a bigger organization purchases them, and then they can't refuse. That's a big offer. There's no loyalty there.
Exactly.
You go there. You get another person, you train them. Immediately they just get ready with the business. They are pushed. They go to this organization. How do you deal with human resource retention? How do you deal with that kind of situation?
Okay, that is actually a very serious challenge that are facing a lot of small-scale businesses today, not just in Lusaka, but actually countrywide, Zambia in particular. So coming to that issue, so it's very critical, and it's something that is really challenging, because you would have relied on that person, and probably they come with a clientele. A lot of people would have familiarized with them, okay, and you find that they are contributing, positively and massively to the business that you're running. So the moment they step out, there is that gap that is created, and it actually affects your turnover. Okay, even in terms of returns. So personally, what I've done is you draft a contract. You draft a contract, and it is in the contract that you're going to put the terms and conditions that will be abiding between you and the person that I'm hiring. Okay, for example, I put the time frame on which that person will have to work with us. Okay, and after that contract is subject either to renewal, or to just let it be that the contract has ended just there and then. So within that time frame, that person should be able to work with us. And the other thing that I surely that I put into place is actually the conditions. The conditions should be favorable enough that that person should feel part of the business and part of you. Okay, to an extent that even when other people come with a big offer, they should have the guts and the confidence, the courage to trust into that business, that vision that you have, to say it's not about what they're seeing today, but what you become tomorrow as a business. So that becomes the strength that person should have in the business, and royalty is birthed from there. And if they really mean well with you and sticking to the contract that is giving the time frame when they have to work with you, chances are very slim that they may pull out and go to other person. So I think on my behalf, those are the grounds on which I keep the people that I work with.
Our dear listener, this is the Labor Up program, where we have an interesting topic where we are discussing about the importance of education, or how education can help us run a business. Of course, I am your host, Chile. This program is Zamcom Radio 100.1 FM, And Mr. Mzingwani, you explained very well on that. Human resource, that's something very important.
Exactly.
I would also have to understand or ask you one thing. Bigger businesses, corporations, organizations
True.
run on systems,
Sure.
good systems that are helping them work the business out or take the business further. They have the same system which is replicated in different countries or different regions, and the business just continues running smoothly. In your undertaking of the businesses, do you have any systems that are assisting you in running businesses? And if at all that you do have these systems, how have they helped you and how important are they?
Oh yeah, so like I earlier mentioned, we have a software that we use that is able, it's able to create a platform for us to communicate whether I'm within the presence or the premises of the business or whether I'm out. Okay, I'm able to communicate and see what is happening. Apart from that, we also have the tools that we use for our inventory. Okay, reporting tools of the sales that have been made, okay, the profits that have been made, and also the inventory that we just have. Okay, so those, they're able to give us the progress that we're making with the business, apart from the software that I earlier mentioned, that guides us to remain cooperated even when I'm out or I'm within the premises. So basically, it's that digital platform that has helped us to remain coordinated and be able to work effectively. Where there is need for guidance, I'm able to communicate with my team. Sure.
Very, very important. Our dear listener, at this particular time, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, of course, we are in the 9 minutes of the show. You can still call in and send in message. You call in and then just tell us where you're calling from and what you need from the show. We will appreciate you. Let's just take a little break, and then when we come back, we're going to continue with the show. How's it going? Welcome back to the Level Up program right here on your number one radio station, that is 100.1 FM. And of course, do not forget that this particular radio station is available on YouTube and from the radio apps, which you can download both on the Play Store and of course the iPhone. In case you are just joining me, my name is Chief Bristol on the Level Up program, where we are discussing about how education can help you run a business. And in the studio right now, for the guest star is Mr. Muzingwani Mudenda, who is a teacher and entrepreneur who is helping us understand and discuss the topic. We are in the 9 minutes of the show, but you can still put in that is 09786400 the time that you started running this business, how has it been? The question is in the context of how was life before the business started and right now. First of all, do you get enough time to rest, or it's been just a ride which is rough, whereby you get too tired, or what is the benefit that you've seen?
Okay, so I think that touches the benefits of running your own business, and in particular, what I'm currently doing, the stationery, business. So we've seen massive, changes that have taken place from the time we began. Just the machinery that we were using back then when we began. Okay, it was I would call it domestic. That was at a smaller scale. But today we've upscaled, and we're using machinery that is able, to do a lot of bulky work, in a short period of time. So our returns over time, are the dividends that we've realized from the time, we began to now, has helped us and pushed us, to where we are now. So there's been a massive change that we've witnessed. Apart from that, it's about, the ups and the downs. So there are times when, work is bulky, and work is actually extremely demanding, that we have to work and go past knocking off hours. Sometimes there are times when we commit to work until the following day, because the work is needed like within a stipulated period of time, and we have no choice but to work and be on time with the delivery of the work that is needed. So there are times when it's highly demanding, that we have to work the all night until the following day. And there are days where it's not demanding. You'll find that probably it's somewhere down there, and business is not responding as usual. So it has had the highs and the lows. So basically that's it.
And very interesting. Just trying to go back a little. You even mentioned, I don't know if you remember that you saw like there's that influence and home that you had of running a business, even though you didn't have much understanding about the business, but you could see the fruits,
Exactly.
which was very, very important.
Exactly.
You went in school, you were doing business in school,
Sure.
you completed your post that level of education.
Yeah,
So
sure.
now, what are the differences that you have observed the time before you got in which you were just seeing business being done home, and the time you got out of school and finally doing business as a person who has been through the process of education? What are the differences or benefits that you've seen that education is adding to this journey?
Actually, education, opens your eyes to the things that you might not have, known if you are not learning. Okay, I'll give an example. Certain threats that come, to a business, you are able to have the foresight of reading where the business is going. Okay, and that comes with education. And having that said, I should say education now becomes the competitive advantage that one can ever have, because it will help you understand things in a certain way, how things work in the corporate world, okay, how things work in the business world. You are able to read where a business is going. Even when, I'll give you an example. When during the time of COVID, it was very challenging. Okay, you find that there are situations where people now have stopped to come physically, to the shop. But how do you go about that? So it brings about you critically and analyzing, thinking to say, how are we going to make a sale? Because we're not going to have the clients physically visit our shops, or they are going to do so, but they are not going to flock into the shop like they used to, because there's now social distancing. So all that is helping you, to understand and realize to say we're into this phase, and you will have, to mutate, to actually change. But if you didn't have an education, it would be a very, blow to the business, to an extent that others we saw and witnessed a lot of shutdowns during COVID. So this is where now education enables you, okay, to withstand, to be resilient even in challenging times, and be able to come up with alternatives that will see you through, though it's not easy.
Very, very interesting. And
Sure.
of course, I'm sure you have observed that the more you go down the avenue of business or work or anything, things just become more demanding, and you have each day that goes by, you have very little time to spend on yourself, people closer to you, your friends, your loved ones, situation where people are thinking in that way, how do you just deal with that situation altogether?
Actually, Mr. Chigo, I would mention to you to say such comments come from the people that are not doing business because they don't have a glimpse of what it implies to be in business. So even when you are focusing and doing on what business demands, they may not understand. I think this also poses a challenge even in your own family because you find that your own relatives are also calling to say, "Yeah, you no longer, call us, you no longer engage us." It's because of how demanding the field that you are in is. But at the end of the day, it's to strive, and then you strike a balance of, checking up your family, checking up on, checking up on your friends. Okay, so I think basically it's a matter of, fighting to divide time and reach out to the people that are within yourself. Of course, you might not reach out to everyone. Unfortunately, that's the iron of life to people that are doing business. So basically, that's that. It's a real struggle, and it's literally everywhere. Everyone that is doing business will still tell you the same story. They struggle with managing time.
And I'm not know if you observe this, but most of the times this has really happened to me. A situation whereby you do like you make a business, a good business deal, the paycheck comes in, and all of a sudden everyone around you has a problem. It's not like you informed anyone. You didn't inform anyone that there's money that has come in.
Okay.
You just make a little money, Pamela spoon. How do you deal with those situations?
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's humor. Yeah. But there are those situations. Perhaps people will start saying, "I'm workers." Such person that I'm workers. How do you deal with those situations where which are just calling for you to spend that business money on people?
Oh, okay. So I'll tell you to say a business is like a baby. Okay, a business is like a baby which needs to be, nest. Okay, on their own. Actually, business stands on its own. Business money is not your money. Business money is business money. So it's why it's important to draw a thin line between your money and business money, so that when you make, you have a paycheck like you have put, you have a profit, you have realized some profits from some deal that you had cracked. So you have your time when you have your money from the business. So it's up to you to make a decision whether the money that you have, of course by paying yourself, the money that you get from your business, which is personal, if it's still available that you can give it out, then you can give it out. But you cannot tamper with business money and give it to people. I would rather sit and be called Wujan workers, provided I know what I'm doing. Because this is what I'm saying. People that are not doing business, they have little knowledge and understanding over these things. Okay? Because you have what are known as operational costs to handle. So when a paycheck comes in, doesn't mean it comes in every day. Probably you've been pushing, and this is when it has come through. So when it comes through, there are a lot of pending bills that it has to nest. So personally or ideally, I'm saying personal money is what you share with others. Business money is business money. Thank you.
Very, very interesting. You stressed it out in a good way. In a good way. I'm
Thank
sure
you,
people
Mr.
are,
Chiu.
yeah, people are listening out there understand. Like the person listening right now understands exactly why business people behave in this way.
Exactly.
Of course, right now we are in the time situation. I don't know why time has moved this fast.
Oh yeah.
I have really enjoyed this conversation. It is very interesting. And now, in closing the show, there is a student out there who is listening. There is a person who wants to go to school that is tertiary. There is a person who is just a young person out there who wants to do business. There is a young person out there who doesn't have capital. Many young people who aspire to be great in life. What are 4 pieces of advice that you have to that young person out there in this journey that you have had? The things that you learned, the regrets, and everything. What 4 pieces of advice do you have to that young person out there?
Okay, I think I'll begin by mentioning to say the most difficult thing that is there actually in business is to start. Okay, a lot of people, who have not started, are implementing on the idea. It's not because they've not had, the motivation. It's not because they haven't read about inspirational books. It's not because they haven't heard, from others. Okay, so one thing that I've come to notice in my business journey is that procrastination, delay rather, is actually born out of not having clarity of things that you want to do. It's very much important. So the advice I'm giving is that it's very much important to stress out the idea that you have to work on. write it down, know it inside out. Okay, even the people that are trading into that in that business know the game. Okay, so that is the first thing. You need to know the idea that you have to implement clearly, when and where to implement that idea from. That is very much important, because when that is not written down, you will forever procrastinate. And procrastination is the mother of all delay. We have had a lot of people who've talked about ideas, but they've done nothing, provided they haven't started. So basically, that is the first advice that I'm giving to someone there who has been doubting and thinking when they should embark on that idea. Secondly, I want to mention about consistency. Okay, consistency is the mother of good fortune. What that means is that in the lows and the highs of business, it's very much important to remain consistent. People are going to throw shots at you. People are going to criticize you for being stingy, like you had earlier put it, to say Ujanua Castle. But what is more important is to remain consistent. Okay? Yeah, so consistency, which comes with discipline, actually. So by doing so, you actually learn the art of discipline. So that is the second thing, consistent. The other thing is actually being able to draw lessons. Okay, you should be very much aware of the lessons. They say when you fall down, don't forget to pick a stone there. What and indirectly that implies is that get a lesson. The moment you have a setback, the moment you fall down, you need to get a lesson from it. So the moment you have a setback in your business as you're doing, learn something. Okay, even when you try 100 times and it doesn't work, allow me to quote Brian Tracy, who once said, for every adversity there's an advantage, and the advantage that we get from the challenges or the setbacks are lessons. Okay, in business. So it's very much important to learn the lessons. You may not have the turning point now, probably tomorrow, but eventually when you remain consistent, your turning point will come and you see the fruits of your work. And the other thing, last but not the least, the fourth thing, you said 4 advice that I need to give. I think the last one is commit your plans unto the Lord. It's very much important that you commit whatever you are doing unto God, because He is the creator and the giver of this life. So whatever we do as human beings, okay, whatever religion we're in, it's very much important that we commit to our spiritual being, whatever aspirations and desires that we have in our hearts, and everything that we want to do. Okay, I believe you are a Christian. Okay, I'm also a believer of Christianity. Actually, the Bible in John 10 verse 10 says, a thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But Jesus said, I have come that you may have life. And not just mere life, but life in abundance. So when you realize that what is actually life in abundance? Life in abundance is living a purposive and a life that is full of fulfillment. Okay? You need to live a purposive life, a life that has got an impact on others. Okay? So what is important is commit everything to your spiritual being. Commit everything to God, that He may answer your prayers. You can do everything humanly, but there is where a point when humanity fails and divinity has to intervene. So do what you can humanly possible and leave everything to God. I think that's the last thing I needed to mention.
Sure. Mr. Mudenda, thank you very much for gracing us here at Zamcom Radio. I am sure that indeed the motherland, that is where you hail from, that is Chibuyunji district, is really, really proud of the son of the soil for articulating issues in this manner. Indeed, on behalf of everyone right here at Zamcom Radio, we thank you very much for gracing us and giving us these beautiful, beautiful insights.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chibu. It was a pleasure being here.
Indeed, until we meet next time. And of course, that this was the Level Up program right here on Zamcom Radio 100.1 FM. Remember, this show comes to you every Monday, that is 14:05 to 15 hours. Please, you can log in, that is next week, as we continue having insightful conversation